Hey, Di. Um, so yeah, so so what's going on with me? I figured it'd be easier to make a video. I've been doing videos lately for some of these online groups I'm a part of and stuff, and it's um, for me, like I've always liked writing too, but I find writing takes a lot of it just takes a lot of time and it takes really a lot of soul energy for me. Um, it's a medium I really enjoy, but I'm finding more and more over time that um, it's not the only medium that I want to use and enjoy. So anyway, I've been just really getting into videos or sending audio clips and stuff to people, and just using different forms of communication. And I thought, oh, this would be a good way, just send you a video. That's why I asked for a Google link. I'll do this video here and I'll put it up on my Google Drive and then share the link with you, because really, like, the file gets big and then you can't download it, right? Or we can't send it through email. And so we have to do some sort of FTP thing, or cloud sharing or whatever. But anyway, blah 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 blah. So where I'm at, well, I guess there's a lot of things. So for me, so backstory, I guess, and you probably know this about me to a certain degree anyway. But for me, my trans experience has never been one of feeling that I was born in the wrong body. That was never my experience. It was always there's more to me than there's just more to me than right than what society allows, what I would allow. And I think that's really the critical part, is like what I would allow and what I subscribe to. We all subscribe to things based on our environment and our upbringing and all of those details. So I think kind of that struggle my whole life is, I see that now as been less of a struggle in terms of body, and definitely a lot more of a struggle in terms of just self-acceptance and giving myself permission to navigate the world however it is that I feel that I want to navigate at that time, right? And it's still something I'm really working on. I am like before going to your group, back in, I don't even know, like, what is it, 2006 or 2004, I think I started on your group. But before that, the only things that I found online, as you know, were all just these forums that of people talking about passing, and this is the type of trans that you need to be, and it's a very extremely narrow window of what trans is, right? And you know that because you created the forum for a reason, and you fought back against that ideal for a reason, and that's what attracted me so much to your site, obviously. And just the things that you said over the years, like, I know I'm not really at all participatory, in the forum and stuff, in recent years, but I owe you, like, I owe you. I'm gonna cry. Yeah. I'm just gonna own this emotion right now. Yeah. Your form and your, like, philosophy and your way of being came into my life at such a critical time, because before that, the world looked very binary, right? And in my soul, I didn't believe it was binary at all. So the work that you've been doing, and when you created that form and being on that form, was a gift to me. It was an incredible gift. And everything that you said made so much sense. It's really interesting because I'm like, I don't know where this emotion all of a sudden came from. And I think maybe it's because a little bit, because I know I'm doing this video and it's for you personally. And like, I've obviously, like, I've thanked you online, I've thanked you in the forum, and I've thanked you publicly on Facebook and stuff, but maybe it's just, this is that little bit more personal. And it's going right to you, right? You're gonna watch this, so. Yeah. Anyway, so so I spent those next number of years after I discovered your form, like, and you know very well, like being actively involved and really kind of immersing myself in that culture of self-acceptance and non-binary, and looking at all these things, not in traditional cookie cutter ways, but just looking at things for the reality that they actually are, right? And like, kind of, what's the deeper psychology behind this? What's the deeper humanity, and what's the deeper, social like factors, and like all of those things. So move forward, I finally got to the point of like that courage of transitioning, and I did, but still through that whole process, I was still quite cautious. I transitioned slow, which is what I wanted, and that's what you recommended, and made complete sense. It still does. I still try to push that in the communities that I'm involved in, because unfortunately that idea of quick overnight transition still exists to this day. Like, it's still a push forward. It's better, I think, than it was 20 years ago. There's a bit more of a negotiation on how some of these things are done, and a bit more of a we've softened out some of the rough edges or sharp edges in it, but still not enough. People don't focus on mental health first. They don't focus on what truly being happy is, and it's really difficult to have those conversations with them, because they're like, well, why would you even transition then? It's like, well, the transitioning is bringing your body to a congruency is a part of that journey, right? Like, well, I'm preaching to the choir. They're two separate but together things, right? And people still just don't focus on happiness enough, right? So anyway, so for me, I guess my journey, I went through transition. I went really slowly. I did go and get an orchiectomy. That I still don't regret that at all. I lived as Trish for the last 4 years-ish, give or take. And it's been an amazing experience for me. And it's not something I wouldn't change it. That I wouldn't change it at all. Not one bit. I have zero regrets transitioning. But through that process, because there's always been this part of me that it's like, I've never been unhappy as a male. That's never been my issue. I've always loved being a male. Again, it was just always about being more, right? Like, there's more to me, or there's more than what society allowed me to be as a male, right? And what does that mean? And what's the combination of it all? And I still don't really know, and I've come more and more to this point where I care less. there's a good chance that ultimately, as I retransition, I will probably settle into some sort of binary. Um, and possibly one way or the other. Like I may just go back as as Trish, or I don't exactly know. Just because, as much as I appreciate being in this messy middle and having kind of like that strength, like being able to show people or be that example for people, there's so many troubles to it too, right? And my mental health has come so far that I'm kind of at this point where it's like I care less about what my body looks like, what the configuration of my body is. And maybe it's just getting older too, or I don't know. But a couple of weird things happened to me. So one of them was, I think, just being immersed as a woman in society taught me, so many things, and there's so many things like, you talked about, you warned me about, or Michelle, or other people, and amazing things. And I'm so grateful to, really have a deeper understanding now of like what privilege is and what access is in the world, and how those things intersect, and I just and feeling sexism, and so you start crying and then everything just starts running. But so all those things like are huge, and they've changed me. So about a year and a half ago, and this is this is an experience I haven't told really anybody. I've told Michelle and maybe a couple of other people. But I was dealing with a lot of depression. So after my separation with Michelle, life got really, really messy, right? Really ugly in a lot of ways. Lost her out of my life. Like we're still quite close considering everything, but obviously, like shit changed, right? When I transitioned. So anyway, so we separated. The kids were living with her. I was renting a bedroom, just a single bedroom from a friend of mine, because that's all I could afford. I was having huge trouble finding work. It was next to impossible, which was extremely frustrating and disheartening. So I spent a lot of time just really being depressed. And at one point, so it was the spring of last year, I had a friend that said, I have a friend that's a healer, and maybe you should go see her, she said. I'm like, what? Sure, I'm gonna go do that. So I went, and I didn't know what this friend did. I didn't know if she did Reiki, or I really had no clue. I didn't even ask. So I booked an appointment. I went in, and she's like, so do you know what I do? Or so you're familiar with what I do? And I'm actually like, no, I don't. I have no clue what you do. So she told me, and she was a hypnotherapist. And I'm like, oh, okay. And of course, the first image in my mind was like, oh, yeah, good luck. Good luck hypnotizing me, right? Like, I've never been hypnotized. Like, I feel kind of resistant. But then, just as quickly as that thought came in, the next thought came in just to say, look, just settle down. You're here for this experience, so just trust this process. Oh. I'm gonna pause this for a second. Blow my nose. Oh, that's way better. So anyway, I just told myself to trust the process, and she explained, and she's like, look, it's not I'm gonna, wave a pendulum in front of your face and get you to bark like a dog or anything. And we had a bit of a laugh. And she's like, no, just the way it is. And the way she described it was that she was just a guide, right? Like she's gonna get me relaxed into like a really deep state to get into my subconscious. And she's like, and as you kind of get there, and as we're kind of floating around in there, we're going to hit places of resistance. And when you hit those places of resistance, we just need to kind of guide you, recognize them, and then kind of guide you past them. And she says, like you can absolutely do this yourself, right? But that the issue with doing it yourself is we become so egotistically attached to those resistances that we can't get past them, right? We keep owning them, and we just make them more permanent, in our minds. So I'm like, okay, no, that makes sense. So she is there to be a guide around those things. So we went into the session, and she spent, probably a good 15 minutes just getting me into a nice, really relaxed state. And I was still aware, and I was still really aware, but I just felt like super relaxed, and I just was trusting her, and she was so beautiful in this process. So she, got me to create this safe place in my mind, as she was like getting me to be relaxed, and so I felt really safe, and I felt warm, and I felt enveloped in this love. And in there, she's like, okay, now you see a mirror. So right now you're far away from that mirror, but you're starting to walk closer. So as that was happening, she was kind of getting me to describe what I see in the mirror. And I started seeing images of faces, and then she got me to describe those images. She's like, what are these images? Where are these faces? Are these people that you know? I'm like, no, I don't know these people. I've never seen them before in my life. And then I'm like, no, they look like villagers, and some of them are soldiers. And she's like, well, what else do you see? And I'm like, I see grass. And then I eventually saw a village, and like these, so the image just started expanding. And what it built to was, and I really don't know what the time frame was, but there was this village being attacked by some soldiers, and I want to say it's like 1200s or 1400s or something. Like this is like quite a long time ago. And it wasn't a scene that I remember from like any movie or anything I've read. It was just something that was there, and whether I was creating it, I don't know. I have no idea. But it felt very real to me. So as that happened, she's like, okay, well, where are you in this? And I'm like, well, I'm up on a hill. And she's like, well, what do you look like? I'm like, well, I don't know what I look like. And she's like, well, what do you see? I'm like, well, I see the grass. Okay, good. And what else do you see? I'm like, oh, I see my feet. And then, oh, I see more. And then eventually I saw a woman, right? I was this woman. And long, flowing brown hair, deep brown eyes, and her name was Maria, actually, and she was a healer. She was the village healer, and she was up on this hill because her place was just kind of a bit outside that village. She was up on this hill, looking down at this scene, and of the villagers being raided by this army, or like this military group, and people are dying, right? And she was feeling all of the pain of everybody, not just of the villagers dying, but even the people in the military of killing the villagers and stuff. She could feel their deeper pain in doing what they were doing, and she just felt all of this pain, and it was just so incredibly overwhelming. And that, for me, at that moment, the feeling, it rise up a little bit right now, but I released a lot of it last year. At that moment, as soon as I realized there was this pain in me, like I was lying on that kind of bed thing in this lady's office, in this kind of deep state, and talking about this stuff, and I just started crying, like a deep sobbing cry, like from the depth of my soul. And it was probably one of the deepest cries I've had in my life. And I have what's uncanny in all this is I don't know where any of it came from, right? I've never seen that lady before, this Maria. I've never seen these villagers before. I don't even know what this village was. But what I recognized, what was immediately recognizable to me, is the pain that I felt, and the presence of whatever her presence was. I knew that presence too. So those two things were the only things in that whole scene that were real for me. And if I look back in my life, those two things have always been a part of me. I can't remember a time not having those as a part of me. So what we ended up doing is she just kind of helped me, package that up, and kind of essentially we sent Maria off to the light, right? And I know it might sound a bit hokey, but for me it was extremely real. And when I sent her off to the light, I felt this, something left me at that time. Like, I'm still imprinted by having her presence in my life. And I've been on the journey I've been on, I think, a lot because of her. And there's been so many incredible gifts that I've received going on this journey. But whatever it was that left, something left me that day. And I don't know, and maybe all of it was just a metaphor for me finding acceptance. Of myself and of my journey and everything. Or maybe it was a past life, right? That, her and I were attached. Like she was an ancestor, or maybe just our souls were attached somehow. I'm not exactly sure, and I really kind of don't care what the answer is, because I know the feeling is real. And whatever left me that day changed me. And so a few months later, I went to the doctor, and I thought, I want to see what it feels like to have testosterone in me again, because with the orchiectomy, obviously I didn't have any testosterone in me besides like the little bit that my adrenal glands put out, right? So I told him then, like, yeah, no, I'm retransitioning, or I'm considering retransitioning, which I wasn't really sure at that time at all. But you have to kind of manage doctors a little bit, unfortunately. So I went in and I got the shot. I got my medication, then I went and got the shot. And that same day, it's like, whoa, like it came flooding back, like in a big way. It was like, holy crap, like my body, it was like, it's kind of like a sponge, almost like a dry sponge, and you put water on it, like it just all of a sudden went, like it just felt it everywhere. Like all these parts of me just came alive that same day. So that scared the shit out of me, right? Like, okay, not only does this, not only do I kind of feel like I need it a little bit, but all of a sudden it's like, it seems like my body really enjoyed having it there, right? Which is new and different. So over the next kind of few months, I guess 6 months or so, I just slowly, there was no real regularity to taking T shots and stuff. And then in the fall of last year, I stopped. And then I kind of was inconsistent on my female hormones too. So I've been like really hormonally fluctuating a lot the last year. And then this spring, I decided, I'm like, all of this is too complicated. Because what ended up happening is I got to this place in my life where I'm like, oh, like I'm actually I still have so many layers of insecurities and fears too, right? Like I'm human, like things haven't just disappeared in that sense. But at the same time, I came to this place where I'm like, oh well, really, I'm quite comfortable in being so many different things right now. I could live as Trish for the rest of my life. I could live as Freeman for the rest of my life. Maybe I could live as a combination. Just all of a sudden, the world of possibilities opened up to me, and I didn't know what to do with that. And in some ways, I was almost just as lost, knowing that I could do whatever I wanted, as opposed to like having this conflicted feeling between the two, right? So I got to a point where I said, okay, I just need to do something about this. I can't not do anything about things. Well, I could, I suppose, but so in the spring, I went on a mall. I just fuck it, like let's see what happens here, right? So I was taking estrogen every day. I was taking progesterone every day, and I was taking testosterone once a week, but all of them in kind of like a bit lower doses, right? And it felt pretty good, right? So that's what I've been doing for the last few months. And but more and more, obviously, because having that testosterone in my body, and I'm only taking like approximately like half the recommended dose for because essentially because that's the other kind of crazy thing, like if I'm transitioning back, I'm kind of like female to male again, like because I'm going through that experience, like because it's still a different experience than when I was first in puberty, right? Like 30 years ago or whatever it was. Every experience is completely unique. So that's where I've been at. And then I think kind of as time has been passing, I have been just trying to accept where I'm at in every moment. Often enough my mind will get away from me, and there's that dysphoria, and that I'll feel that I want to do, I just want to be in some sort of binary, or I'll feel like, I love both, and there's different things, and like to be really blunt about it, like there's times where I'm like, it's really super inconvenient, especially as I've been masculinizing more, to have, I'm walking around, I'm like visibly starting to be more masculine a bit, and like I got these big boobs, right? And so it's conflicting in the world, but again, there's still those same principles of like people care far more about themselves than they do you still apply, right? So they'll look and they'll be curious, or they'll judge or whatever, but then their attention turns back to them right away. But then the other part of it, there's parts of me like like with sex, for instance, like my skin, since transitioning like from male to female, my skin is this like beautifully sensual organ, and it's amazing. Like I love my skin touched, and and even having like breasts, right? Like it's it just makes sex even that much better. So there's definitely parts of me that want to go back to some sort of binary, but then there's other parts of me that I'm like, can I live in a bit of the middle of both worlds, like just kind of keep in this messy middle, and I don't know. I really don't know what the answers are yet. But as far as like, I'm just sharing it all publicly, and if people want to talk to me about it, then I am like so open to talking about it, and I'm okay with not having the answers right now, and I'm having fun exploring, right? Like, because some of this some of this male energy and this masculinization is coming back. And I was always like a really strong guy, like even amongst other men. Like I was a very strong guy, and and some of that's coming back, and it feels good. There's that. So I don't know. There's so many things, and it's hard to break them down individually and explain them. But that's kind of the journey over the last few years. I know you asked kind of like, well, what's going on with you, which I so appreciate you for that, and checking in, and it's so interesting because we've never met, not in person, but and I know we don't talk a lot lately, like in recent years, like not as much as we did before, like when I was active on the forum, but we've lost a bit of touch there, but I definitely consider you one of the most closest and dear people in my life. I don't know. There's so much I've learned from you, and there's been, we've had that connection for, 12, 13 years or something like that, right? Whatever it's been. And your experience and your advice has helped me through so much, and has shaped the foundation of how I live my life. That's really the truth, actually. Like I've always been a person willing to live with a bit of vulnerability and laugh at myself and that kind of stuff, but just the principles that I picked up from you, in our discussions and on the forum, have really, really informed how I've decided to shape the foundation of my beliefs and how I navigate in this world, ever since, like especially in terms of gender and transition, but more than that, just even in terms with relationship with myself. And I think the biggest thing you taught me was to look at the core principles of things, to get off of the superficial societal level of where everybody feels they need to exist on, where really none of us want to exist on, like that, because it's not reality. I think that's probably the biggest thing that you've taught me, was to get off of that level and go into a deeper, more fundamental, more real level with everything, really. So yeah, so that's my journey. I'm gonna share this with you. I might even post this on my YouTube site, because why not? As I kind of went through all that, I feel like some of this explanation stuff might help others. So, and that's a big thing of why I'm sharing all this stuff lately. So the more I can help everyone else, and show them and pass on some of these things that I've been so gifted in my life to learn and to be a part of, pass them on to others and make the world a bit better place. So anyway, that's all of that. I'll leave it at that. I will wait for your email. See if you can send me that Google link. Either that, or I might just publish this on YouTube, and then I'll just share the link with you, and you can send it to the group and stuff if you want, if people want to look at it. And yeah, that might be the easiest. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna put this up on YouTube and let people watch it and use it, and for whatever it's worth. So anyway, I love you, Di. I do. We really need to meet one day. I got to get this whole passport thing down and get down to the U.S. to meet you and spend some time together. I would love that. just have coffee and visit, and just actually meet face to face would be amazing. So anyway, I love you, and I love everybody, and we'll see you all in the next video.